Wasabi Gangsters, it's me, Chance Dillon, here to talk to you about books. Another week, more reading, good amount of reading, and a good amount of writing. So let's dive into the reads first. I finished Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. Now, let me say, this was a weaker installment than the first one. I think as far as my enjoyment from like the we'll call it the Holy Grail authors like Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros in terms of just like popularity, I would still put this above my Fourth Wing experience, even the first book and the second book of Fourth Wing, that series. Crown of Midnight, still good, still a good entry in the series. There are some things in this one I can't dive into it without getting into spoilers that I wasn't crazy about. That said, overall, as a story, again, storyteller, Sarah J. Maas is an excellent storyteller. I definitely see this why she has so much success. She's a fantastic storyteller. There are, again, things about this one that I am typically just not crazy for in stories. Just didn't feel earned or justified in a lot of ways. Just some elements related to some relationships and connections there. That said, overall, the experience was enjoyable. I think this series, it takes a step up as I get to, I mean, the writing was definitely better in Crown of Midnight, but then we get to Heir, and now we're talking about like a whole other level that Sarah J. Maas is reaching. I said this to somebody. I said, it feels like this is the story that she wanted to write for when she first set out to do this series. Heir, we are touching on some really fantastical things. We're about, I think, page-wise, we're about halfway, chapter-wise, I think just under. But yeah, we're about halfway through the book right now. I probably should finish it by the end of this weekend. This is just so nice to read. Over in the Discord, the Book Street Boys, there's a chat over there that we talk about. There's a Throne of Glass discussions channel over there. You guys can go ahead and join the Book Street Boys in the description below. But man, this one is taking a step up, really. There are annoying elements, I think, that just generally about characters would annoy me. But I look past it. I'm able to look past it just because I'm able to suspend my disbelief there. And it does feel super intriguing. There are some really cool things that we got in this story so far. A lot of other fantastical elements that have been introduced. More perspectives introduced, which is enthralling, actually. It's really cool to get into other eyes and see other players in the game and how they're playing. It's really interesting so far. I'm going to jump right into the next. I think the next one's the Assassin's Blade. I'm supposed to read the prequel, is what I've been told, and then I think after that is the tandem read, or I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments below. But I am enjoying this very much. Heir. I am also listening to Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. I am through the second part of that audiobook with Stephen Pacey narrating, and I mean, man, we have a character. If you don't know who this person is in the first like 4 or 5 chapters as it's been introduced, it's kind of interesting to think about because it's just sort of, it's so Joe Abercrombie to do this, and it felt obvious, it felt intentional. Obviously, it's not like obvious like you caught it. No, I think it was intentional. But then we get to see some really cool stuff kind of unwind in the story as it goes. And again, Joe Abercrombie just is a master of comedy. He's a master of just humor and bickering and bantering, and it's incredible to listen to. I've read the first law. I think I talked about this last week, how I read the first law like on paper, and it shows just how good he is with character voice. That Stephen Pacey also takes the narration, and it feels virtually the same to me, just in how much my brain is able to comprehend it. It's so, I'm going to use the word simple, but it's just still very intricate for being so simple. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but maybe not. But 2 parts through with that one. I'm about halfway through the third part of that, I believe, which or we're into Kreese, which is just the third part of the story. Part 3 is called Kreese. I think he does 5 parts usually, and I'm like noticing his structure in this one a little bit, and which I hadn't, I think, before. Funny enough, I should have. But then when I'm done with these standalones, I do think that I'm going to start to prioritize the Age of Madness trilogy, because that was one when I first started reading fantasy that really caught my attention, just by the covers. Just they're freaking amazing looking. And then I also will be reading Empire of the Dawn. I'll be reading Empire of the Dawn, I think, before I start Age of Madness. I'm going to read Empire of the Dawn. I'm going to read Return to Edan. I'll probably read the second book of Hunt of Jackals by J.L. Odom. I'm just like going to catch up on a lot of series. I'm going to read Red Rising. I have to read Lightbringer and Dark Age. Dark Age and Lightbringer. I have to read those two. So I'm going to do a lot of catching up. Strength of the Few. I'm going to read that as well. I'm gonna, with that, as I'm reading through Throne of Glass, because it just is, it really is an accessible read. My brain is just so happy to have that little bit of a break after Malazan. It's just crazy the difference, and it is a really good story and really enthralling in that way. And then I read Berserk. I read up halfway through volume 27, I think maybe more, through the final volume of this deluxe edition, the 9th volume deluxe edition. I'm on volume 27, and boy, oh boy, we got introduced to something very freaking badass that I have been waiting for, because I've seen artwork of Berserk. If you guys have read Berserk, you probably know what I'm talking about at this point. But man, I mean, come on. What a cool intro. It is just such an interesting story. It is just so absolutely fascinating that this is written the way that it is, and it's amazing. It is so good, and we're getting. So we kind of took like a detour in the middle parts. I think after the Golden Age arc, there's a bit of a detour there, sort of in a way. And here we're returning to what really made me fall in love with this story in particular. And it's really cool to get back to it. Really cool to see these characters coming together in the way that they are. Really cool to see the fantastical, magical elements come into play, and just like the twisted mind of Kentaro Miura. Man. It's very, very interesting and very dark, obviously. It's a very dark story and badass. I know I use the word badass when describing Guts a lot, but I mean, how do you use literally any other word other than bad? You have to have at least used badass once, period. Like, that's it. And that's end of story. And that's the end of story. Okay, so that is my reading, guys. I'm going to jump into my writing. We got some updates on that front. Man, I am 43,000 words into the third volume, and I am thoroughly enjoying pulling the pieces apart here and picking the story up where we left off with book 2 in terms of we see these characters after X amount of time, and it's really, really fun to get back in their brains, as twisted as that may be for those who have read the second book. It is really fun to get back into their brains and sort of unravel the story there, and the expansion that we're building towards, the convergence that we're building towards. It actually is, and I've been hearing a lot about this tandem read recently of Throne of Glass as well. That's been thrown at me quite a bit, that I should do it, that I have to do it in particular. And as I'm writing this one, I'm like, man, we are expanding. I like to organize my stories with like 3 general areas that you are as a reader at any point in time. 3 groups of characters, relatively speaking. And in any one of those 3 scenes, you get multiple perspectives based on, because I like seeing through different eyes personally, and I like the fact that the reader can do that too, because it just helps with environmental, I think, storytelling a little bit. With this one, I'm sort of thinking that I may need to pull, at a certain point, some perspectives. I'm going to write this as a one book. The third volume, obviously the third and fourth volume are going to be a single arc of the story, but I'm going to write this as a single book, the third volume, with the note to my editor that, hey, the X perspective in these scenes, what if we pulled them and put them into another book, just so we can streamline the reading experience of the story in the third volume, the focus of the third volume. And that way, also, I'm taking the 2 primary, I say 2 primary, but the primary concepts of the story that I really wanted to touch on, I'd be separating them into those 2 separate books. And I think that might create a different experience. Again, I'm just spitballing here. This is just me as I'm writing. This might blow up to be a bigger book than I had anticipated. My estimated word count right now is sitting at 200,000. We are about 40,000 words in, and it does sort of feel like we are just scratching the surface, which is fun, and also damn, it's like, damn, like this is going to be an expensive book to edit. That said, I'm going to really thoroughly try to get it around the word count that my goal was, to keep the story cohesive if I can. If it does blow a little bit, I'm hoping in the editing process we can solve that problem. If it does get to a certain point where the perspectives that we spend, if we're spending too long in perspectives and sort of like eliminating a part of the story, which honestly it does kind of feel that way, because one of these particular areas that we're in is sort of very disconnected from the main area that we're in. And actually, it's just so massive that it does feel that way for me as the writer. Although they are connected, there is connection there. There is narrative connection there and narrative through lines. Still, it's one of those things that may end up being split. I'm just warning you now. Okay, I don't think if I am. If this is going to be a challenge of my skills for sure, I'm going to have to be very skilled at putting this together, and it's a good challenge for me. I think it's one of the reasons why I love this so much. Is it is a challenge. It's a intellectual challenge for me to be able to go in there and feel it out and put things where they belong, and it's very, very fun. That said, that's enough third volume talk. Second volume talk, first volume talk. We're still getting those dust jackets done, guys. By Shimhack, the Dust Jackets. Shimhack is doing the cover art for the launch editions for the Broken Binding. I believe those will be the first ones that we put out. I am going through the Blood Rebellion short story. That will be with Maxwell art, by the way. That will be in the launch edition for Tears of the Fallen. Just so you guys know, so you're aware, that's going to be in there in the very beginning, and we'll put those together. I think I'm very much looking forward to it. Also, I'm doing some other work with Maxwell Earp, and I don't. This one I'm gonna keep under wraps. Generally, because it is something, as we move into the audiobook sphere and we have Simon Vance narrating, there's obviously some things that I'm going through personally that I want to make sure that release of the audiobook is done justice. I want to make sure that things are done in particular there in a specific way. And so I'm working really hard at that. Maxwell is working very hard at that with me. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Also, I got approached by another author to do a co-write, and I'm very excited about that. And that is just something, again, I'm going to keep under wraps, guys. It is fantasy. That's all you need to know. That's all I'll say about it right now. I'm not going to give the author's name quite yet because I didn't ask before recording this, so I'm not going to do that. And I'll keep it to myself for now as we start to build out that plan and get some perspectives written in that story. It'll be more, I'm going to use the word more digestible, I think, than Mercy, just in terms of you can probably sit down and read it a bit faster by way of the nature of the story and the word count that we're limiting ourselves to, which I think is also fun for the both of us, considering we both write bigger books. And yeah, that's going to be a really, really fun, interesting time, and I'm very excited for that because it's a little different. And I have a bunch of stories in my head I got to write, and this is one in a collaborative experience, my first collaborative experience as a writer. I think that'll be. Well, I guess technically if you don't count music, my first collaborative experience as a writer, and I'm really, really looking forward to that, to see what we can put out. Other than that, guys, we kind of got, the sun moved. The sun moved more as we get into spring. The sun decided to start setting in a different place. It's also a little bit cloudier out there today. Did I talk to you guys about Addie LaRue, about finishing up Addie LaRue? I could have sworn I did. Leave the comments below if you remember if I talked about Addie LaRue drunk, because I think I did, and I read that a while ago. It's been over a month since I read that. So, man. All right. Well, hopefully the mic worked this time. I'm gonna play that back before I record my 3-minute vid. All right. Well. What a day, huh? What a week. What a good week, I think. I hope. Huh. Other things, guys, I'm not going to elaborate. We're just going to sit here awkwardly. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week.